All right, I've got another shoe review today. I'm trying to knock out the shoes that I have in my rotation that are already over 50 miles, and that way I can move on to just doing these every time a new shoe hits 50 miles or when my old shoe hits another 50-mile mark. This is the Timp 2 by Altra, and it's a trail running shoe. And I've had this for a while. I haven't really been running in it very much in the past year, really. I've had it for about 2 years, but only because I can't really do zero drop so much anymore. I'm gonna start trying to get a little bit more zero drop in periodically. I'm probably gonna try running in this shoe just like a mile a week. Just on one of my off days that aren't even really a running day, just go for a short little half-mile out and back on my local trail that's real close, just so I can get a few more miles in on this shoe and not be wasting a shoe. Why is it that sometimes when a shoe doesn't work like perfectly for you, it ends up kind of getting relegated to like your least favorite shampoo that for some reason you still keep under your sink, like for emergencies, but otherwise like you're not going to use it so long as you still have your other shampoos? I don't know, weird analogy. But this guy, we're going to talk about a couple of the stats real quick. We're going to talk about some pros and cons. Price that you can get this shoe for right now is about $99 in a lot of places. They've got a couple different colorways on this shoe that are kind of fun. I like this one best because it's darker and hides all the dirt and such. The other female color is a significantly lighter green. The upper is a little bit more like this seafoam green that's on the midsole. And I just don't see that handling dirt very well over time, but it's a pretty shoe anyway. And the men's colorways are different. They've got other ones for the men's. All right, as usual for Altra, this is a zero drop shoe. It has a stack height, however, of 29 millimeters, according to what I looked up on the website, which means it's actually got a very similar stack height to the Torin 4.5 plushes that I reviewed recently. And to be quite honest, this kind of just feels a lot like a trail version of that shoe in a lot of ways. I know there'll be people out there that disagree with me. It's just the main differences are the material of the upper, which is typical for trail shoes. They just aren't made as breathable. They're that way to be more protective and keep dirt and sand and stuff out of your shoes. It's got this nice little rubber toe protector, which the Torins do not have, but they would need them. They're a road shoe. It's got the gaiter guards, which are fun, so that you can put a gaiter on there with a little clip at the front. But it's got a similar stack height and kind of a similar like foam feel to the Torin plushes. So if you like those, you might like these two if you're doing something for trail. On to the weight of this shoe. The weight that I got was 8.6 ounces or 244 grams according to my scale. Anybody who's doing metric conversions, if these don't add up at some point, my bad, I'm literally just going off of what my scale is telling me. But 8.6 ounces for a trail shoe that I've actually done long miles in this. I've done 10 miles in this shoe before. I've done double digits in this shoe, and it was still comfortable. Other than the fact that I was getting a blister, but I was getting a blister at that time on my arch of my foot from every shoe I wore. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily a problem with the shoe. That's just my feet were being dumb. And this was summer that I was using this shoe. I've also run in this shoe in winter on snow, and it handles it pretty darn well. The grip is really good on this shoe. I really like that on the outsole. But as far as a trail shoe is concerned, this is quite light. 8.6 ounces for a trail shoe that you can do double digits in is not bad. As for stability of this shoe, it is a neutral shoe. It's quite twisty. It's very flexible. Like, it's got a lot of flex to it and stuff, but it does manage to feel pretty stable underfoot. I used to run a lot at this one park near my house that had a lot of patches where they had like just stones that were like barely hanging outside of the dirt, and you have to run on those, and it's just very like wobbly. And I'd run with these, and I usually didn't have an issue. I did have a couple of times where I tweaked my ankle, like I stepped wrong, and I thought I was gonna have a sprained ankle, and I jumped up and kind of did one of those things where you're like, am I hurt? Am I hurt? No, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm gonna keep going. And I did, and these shoes were good for that. I like that it has kind of like a moderate stack height, which adds to that ability to stay more stable even on kind of rougher, more divoted terrain. But they definitely have a pretty plush feel considering how little stack it actually has. It feels quite comfortable underfoot. This is honestly probably my favorite Altra of all of them. And I've tried the Altra Olympus, which is their max cushion. I thought it felt like running with a brick underfoot. I was not wild about that. That shoe was not my favorite. I ended up returning it after like one run in it. And yeah, this is definitely my favorite. I used to run in the Lone Peaks as well, and they're considerably less just, they feel less just plush underfoot. Definitely, they don't have that stack height that this guy has. Now I want to talk about the outsole rubber. As you can see, it's got these nice lugs, quite a few of them. They're not super huge, and they've got varying sizes of lugs throughout the foot. You've also got these little sections of, I've got a little bit of mud on these, exposed foam here, and I'm not noticing any damage to those so far with the mileage that's on these, which is about 74 miles like I mentioned. However, you can definitely see where this lug and these lugs here are starting to look a bit worn because that's the main place where my foot strikes. I think there's a little bit of wear on some of the back, not that you can see it very much because the backs definitely have, as you can see, just a little bit more height to their lugs. I'm guessing with the shape of the lugs and the way that they have them angled, that's to aid in downhill ascents, or downhill descents rather. They aren't holding up as well as I might imagine, and I'm trying to see if it says what kind of outsole rubber this is, because I thought, here we go, Max Track. So this is Max Track rubber on the outsole, and like I mentioned, you can see a good amount of wear here, and we're not even at 100 miles, which to me is a little bit disappointing when it comes to a trail shoe. I kind of expect to see less wear at 100 miles than I'm seeing on these guys, but considering the cost is only like $99 to get this particular version of this shoe right now, and they do seem to be still fairly readily available online at the time of this video. $100 for a shoe, even if it isn't particularly durable, on the outsole rubber is not bad for a lightweight trail shoe that feels comfortable underfoot and that can go longer distances. That ain't bad. Can't complain about that for the price. But that is something to be aware of. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to pros and cons because I feel like I'm starting to ramble and just try to look for things on the shoe to talk about. As usual, I'm going to start with cons because I'd rather erase the bad stuff with the good stuff about the shoe than erase the good stuff with the bad stuff. I already mentioned one of the cons. I think that the life on the outsole of the shoe may not be as long as you might get out of some other more durable, my brain's not working, it's too early in the morning, other trail running shoes. However, another thing that I failed to mention earlier, and I just remembered, I've actually done a decent amount of like concrete running with this shoe just because I was using it in winter and I wanted a little better grip on the slightly icier or snowier surfaces. So that could be contributing to how fast this is worn down. I just thought of that. So maybe try it out. And just be mindful that if you are transitioning onto concrete and stuff, that may wear this down faster. Anytime you use trail shoes on concrete, you are gonna wear down your outsole rubber a little bit quicker. Another con to the shoe, which I did not mention, but this probably goes into why it's lighter weight. There's no rock plate in this shoe. That's also partially why it's as flexible as it is and neutral as it is, but there is no rock plate. I haven't really had a ton of problems with that in the past, but I do remember a specific instance when I was running in the shoe and I was doing, I think I was doing like 6 miles or something like that. but I remember I went over like a gravel patch that had a lot more like sharp rocks, and I remember hitting right in that toe box area a sharp rock that kind of like, I feel like it hit not on the outsole rubber, it just happened to hit like right in one of these little groove things where it's got the exposed foam, and it hurt. It didn't end up bruising my foot, but I remember kind of yelping a little bit and then limping for a couple steps before I kind of got over it. I would like to see this shoe with a little bit of a rock plate, something just a little bit more protective on that forefoot section in the future. That would be kind of nice, but I think they would have to sacrifice a little bit of how light this shoe is to make that happen. Last con I could think of for this shoe, and this may not even be a con depending on what you're using this shoe for, but if you were using this for summer running or running when it is hot out, this shoe is not particularly breathable. That's not uncommon for trail shoes, but this one in particular is not very breathable, I found. In fact, I used to really like to run in it in winter because it kept my toes drier and warm, even when I was running in snow that was like up to here, which was nice for that, but not so nice for summer running, especially with the darker color. It just catches the sun. If you did the lighter color one, it probably wouldn't be such an issue. But with the darker color one in particular, when that sun just shines on it, it just absorbs that heat and gets into your foot, which might not be the best thing for summer running, but might be good for winter running. And now for some pros. I already talked about the outsole rubber a bit and the different size lugs and how they are starting to wear. However, I just want to say that I have had terrific grip in this shoe. It's been really nice, even for like uphill, downhill, more technical terrain. Even though the lugs aren't particularly deep, I want to say, I don't even think they're 4mm. I think they might be 3mm. I'd have to look that up, but they don't look like particularly aggressive lugs. And what's nice about that is that you could use this theoretically to commute in the shoe. The lugs are not annoying and noticeable, even if you do have to run on concrete for a short ways in this shoe, which is nice. However, even though they are not particularly aggressive, they do have really good grip. I've run in this shoe with the concrete having that like awful thin layer of ice you can barely see, and they've done decently on that. Feel that out for yourself if you do get a pair of these shoes though, because everybody's gait cycle is different, and depending on how your stride length is and such, that can definitely affect how slippery a surface is. So keep that in mind as well. It's not all just the shoe, sometimes it's your form as well. Another pro, lockdown. Freaking love the lockdown in this shoe. I suspect that that's partially to do with this oddly shaped lacing system that they have here. You notice how most lacing systems just kind of go straight up and like this. Well, this one has this like wider one to accommodate for the toe box, being wider on Altra shoes. And as usual, toe room is always there in Altras, another pro. Kind of mentioned this earlier, it is very lightweight for a trail shoe, especially a trail shoe that can handle double digits. Runs and going for a longer period of time, it's quite comfortable, considering how lightweight it is. It has like a decent amount of cushion underfoot. It's not gonna feel like you're just running on a hard surface the entire time, which is really nice for something to have the lightweight to be able to do some more speedy running, but still have that comfort aspect and the stability aspect where it's not super high stack height and you're gonna roll an ankle while you're out on a trail. So it's just got this really nice balance combination of features that all just kind of make up for a shoe that can be used for pretty much all the type of trail running, other than maybe like the absolutely most technical stuff or stuff with sharp rocks, because like I mentioned, no rock plate. And last pro I had, which kind of goes along with some of the other pros and goes along with the con that I mentioned about it not being particularly breathable. Very nice shoe for winter running. Really good in like sloppy conditions where the snow has melted or it's been rainy and it's gotten on the dirt. It handles that quite well. And like I mentioned, because it isn't quite as breathable as a lot of road shoes and such, it does help to keep your toes a little bit warmer. It was only on the very coldest of days when I was running, when I was running in Salt Lake here, that I would have to put an actual toe warmer into my shoes and use that, whereas for a lot of my other shoes, including trail shoes, I do have to do that in the winter or I lose circulation in my toes. So that's very nice about this. The heel counter is quite stiff, as you can see, so that's nice and protective right there. And I really like how the actual collar of the shoe fits around my ankles. I've never gotten any blisters there or anything. I haven't had an issue because the tongue is reasonably plush, not super plush. It's not like one of those really fat tongues, but it's got enough padding that you don't feel the laces cutting into the top of your foot either. So all in all, I actually really like this shoe for trail running. I wish I could run in it more, but since it's zero drop and I'm very prone to shin splints, I actually don't get to. I'm going to work on trying to get this back into my rotation on a regular basis, however, just because I really actually do love this shoe quite a bit. And that's pretty much it for my thoughts on the Timp 2 by Altra. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up because I've been rambling for ages, and I think I've gone over pretty much the main most important points. And thank you for watching if you are. Otherwise, I have this for my own records, and that way I can keep track of what shoes I actually liked and which ones not to buy again.